All right. All right, guys. Tein, the digital realtor here with eXp Realty. I got Alma over here, one of my clients that I recently helped sell their home. Alma, how you doing today? Good?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, Alma, I had helped sell her home over in Hampton. And Alma, can you give me a little experience about how it was before we had met? Like, the past experience when you guys had purchased or sell yourself?
Um, we try to sell this house on our own. And now after this experience, I worked with a realtor before when we
Yeah.
bought the house that we live in.
Yeah. How was that
And
experience?
she was great
Awesome.
for that particular transaction. I don't really have anything negative to say about
Awesome.
her.
Good. That's
And
awesome.
then but this was the first house that we've actually were on the seller side of it.
Okay.
Um, so we have tried um we have tried to sell it on our own. We listed it back in November,
Yep.
and for me, like the for sale by owner, it was a complete nightmare. I wouldn't even try it anymore. Um, just because like everybody that came in, nobody's pre-approved. There's not really a way for me to check the people that are coming in. um we had two people that actually wanted to buy the house, but they couldn't get approved for the loan.
Yeah.
So we just kept getting people coming in that didn't even see if they can get a loan first, but they were trying to buy a house.
Yeah.
And so for me, the for sale by owner, it was a complete nightmare. I would not even try it anymore.
Well, yeah. What was your least favorite part about it? Because I know sometimes the other people, the struggle was, unfortunately you run into this, but no shows where people schedule appointments to actually come see the home and then they don't show up. Did you experience that at all?
No, I actually didn't have any no shows.
That's good.
Everybody was pretty good about coming in for the people that came in to that house. My only thing was like I would get so many scam phone calls on it, and just for me, like the frustrating part, it was like, okay, well, they're they're not even sure if they can get a loan, but they're
Yeah.
coming to look at a house, which I understand happens
Yeah.
at times too, but it's just something that we just kept running into that issue.
Yeah. That's one. It's like it seems so simple, but it's like such. It can be so frustrating when you're running into so many people because unfortunately, a lot of first-time home buyers are not experienced with the process. So that's actually what they end up doing most of the time, is going out to see the home first before they even speak to a lender, which then they find out that they don't qualify. So it happens in our industry all the time. So you're definitely not the only one that I've heard that from. Um,
Yeah, definitely understandable.
yeah, yeah, and that's one of the cool thing about with agents as well. Us as agents, we tend to qualify people, and then of course you run into a ton of people that are unqualified, but we help them become qualified. It may take 6 months or so, but that's the process, right? You give them to the lender, get credit repair and whatnot. But let me
Yeah.
ask you this: why did you guys decide to try and sell on your own? Because I know, you guys, that was your first fix and flip. So, can you give me an idea of the reason on why you guys decided to sell on your own?
The reason we decided to try it out is when we were working on this house, we already had people stop in,
Hmm.
and that were like, okay, we'll be interested when you're done. Give us a call. We already had like a couple people that stopped
Gotcha.
in to look at the house. So I was like, okay, this shouldn't really be a problem. We already have people coming in. It shouldn't be that bad. But then at the same time, we finished the house in November. We listed it close to December. So it's the holidays. It's kind of slow
Yeah,
season too. So it just and the biggest reason like we tried too is of course to save on the commission.
of course.
Um, but then you can't really have the house on the MLS, and there's like a whole bunch of other stuff that we didn't really think about from the beginning. We just thought it was going to be an easier sale and that we would have sold it quick either way. So that's why we try to do it
Yeah.
on our own.
Yeah, of course. I don't blame you. A lot of people end up going the for sale by owner route most of the time, really, to save the commission. But the tough part where it starts is really weighing out, is it worth the time, right? And then the commission that you end up saving, because you put it on in December and however long that might have been trying to sell on your own, possibly might save you the headache and all the work, but at the end of the day, you live and you learn, right?
Yes.
But it's not impossible. I've definitely ran into people that sell on their own too. So it's really at the end of the day, some of the services are more beneficial to others than other people, right? And can you give me an idea of because I know initially when we had first met, you guys were only working with buyers agents. Can you give me an idea of what made you decide to try out my services?
Um, we had a couple agents call us, but
Yeah.
with you, you were actually the first agent that had called us on this house.
Oh,
And what I liked
I
about
didn't know
you is
that.
that, like, yeah, so I'm like, okay, he just saw this house come on the market. That right away told me, like, you're a go-getter. And you texted me your info, right? I remember right after we got the phone call, you texted me your info, who you work for, your phone number, email. So I like that part, because then I'm like, okay, this is not, you get so many scam calls these days. I was like, okay, this guy seems legit. So then you were actually still giving me tips on how to sell by owner, which that was something I was like, okay, I didn't even hire this guy, but he's already giving me tips. And then you're like, well, you also gave me a timeline. And the funny thing is, like, every timeline you gave me, that's how it ended up being. And you're like, oh my, if you don't sell this house in 2 months by yourself, you should consider getting an agent. So you kept like following up with me, but it wasn't like you weren't calling me like every day and be like, hey, Alma, hire me. But it was like every like couple weeks, you would just check up and be like, okay, well, if you need help with this or that, just let me know. So that's something that right away like caught my attention. And then you had called and you were like, okay, let's meet up at the house. And but I liked when we met, you gave me like a printout of everything right away and like some information and giving me safety tips. I remember that too. And I was like, it's okay, Tein, I already creeped on you. So it's okay. So that's why I'm meeting you at this house. But it was just like you were giving me a lot of information and we didn't even hire you yet. And it wasn't pushy. It was like, that's the part that made me choose you. And you were one of the first ones. And I was like, okay, well, just from the start, you seem like a go-getter. And that's what I like.
Thank you. Thank you. I love hearing that. I definitely am a go-getter. I go above and beyond for every single one of my clients, as you're aware. A ton of open houses held, a lot of marketing, door knocking, cold calling for the home. And on the timeline part, I don't know if you noticed at all, but it is really crazy if you think about it, because the average days on the market for that home specifically was, if I remember correctly, was 64 days. Was the average days on the market for 130 Roland, and we got the home under contract 51 or 52 days. It was my buyer that I brought, but I love looking at the data because it always end up being right around the ballpark range of the data on timeline wise. Like, it's so weird because did you notice that at all?
Yes, that's actually me and Dino. We talked about that too, because I was like, yeah, he said the first thing when I met him, like, if you don't sell it in 2 months, you should consider about getting an agent. Then he was like, well, the timeline is 64 days. So it was like everything that you said. It's like, okay, I don't know if he's psychic or something, but it seems like that you had your timeline nailed too. So that's
Yeah.
always a good thing.
So yeah, obviously I would love to sell it quicker and faster, but it's just crazy how things work out in real estate sometimes. And I run into many scenarios like that where it's like right around the timeline. It's just crazy. It's the real estate gods. Um, but so what did you like and enjoy most about working with me?
So I like the fact, like, you were so easy to get a hold of. It's if you didn't pick up that phone call right away, you text me, hey, Alma, I'm on a phone or something. I'll give you a call back, and like you call me back shortly, whether it was day or night. Like, that was like my number one thing. You were easy to get a hold of. Second, it's like every time me and Dino, we would think it's like, oh, maybe Tein should follow up with this buyer that came to look at the house like a week ago, or anything we thought about, and we were like calling you, hey, Tein, Bob, and you're already telling us that that's something you did. You already called somebody, checked. So that was like, that saved us like so much headache, because I felt like I didn't even really like, I kind of stopped thinking about the house. It was like, okay, Tain's handling it. And you're like, oh, and you would check in. I remember every Friday you'd give us a check in, how many people looked at it, how many people saved it. the feedback. So that was really nice too.
I love
So
hearing that.
overall, you get a 5-star.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, can you, so the Friday phone call, right? It's surprisingly a lot of agents in our industry actually, not everybody, but you know, this is one thing that I take pride in, because keeping my clients up to date, right? Every Friday you get that phone call from me of exactly what's going on. As little as it seems, it actually doesn't happen across the industry, believe it or not. But that's one of, I love hearing that you guys appreciated the communication. So the communication was top notch, you would say?
Yes, definitely. Like you kept us updated, and it was just something I didn't have to worry about. Oh, I have to call Tein and be like and ask you, did anybody come look at the house? It was something that I knew was happening every Friday. I know some weeks I did call you anyway just to check, but I knew it was something that you were gonna handle, end of the week. So it was for me, like it took like a lot of
A
my
lot
thinking
off the
away about
shoulders.
selling the
Yeah.
house.
Yep, of course. Thank you. And so I actually ended up finding the buyer, through the deal actually came through me where I found the buyer. Can you give me an idea of like, because I know dual agent, sometimes it could be tough to trust people, because you got both sides represent, the deal essentially. But in the long term, it ends up saving you guys money as well. How was that experience like as a dual agent part?
For me, it was great because you reduced your fee, so that's always definitely a good thing.
Yeah,
And I didn't feel like, from my point of view, and I understand you got to represent the buyer too, but I truly feel like you represented both sides well.
yeah,
I don't feel like cheated out of things, just because you represented both. So I didn't feel like I can't trust you or anything just because you're representing the buyer.
awesome,
So for me, like the experience was still great.
awesome. Thank you. And what would you tell someone that's considering possibly using my services?
Just go for it.
Right? What's to
You
lose?
got nothing to lose. And, oh yeah, and the one thing I forgot to mention, the one thing that you did offer when we signed up for your services, you said, hey, you guys can still continue to look for a buyer. If you happen to find a
Yep.
buyer, you can get out of this contract. So
Yeah.
that's something that's different. So there's like a couple of things that you're doing that's different from other agents.
Yep.
So that's something as a for sale by owner that caught my attention too. Which then, when you started bringing people in, I didn't even think about bringing. I was like, I'll just let Tein handle it. I didn't, I just, I just didn't. For me, like I did, like it was just easier to let you handle it, and I trusted you with this. So I would definitely highly recommend you. And I like the fact that even though the transaction is done, you still check up with us. Like we still talk here and there. So for me, like the whole experience was great.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah. The what you're talking about is my no handcuff listing agreement, which essentially allows you to any point given time, if you're not happy with my services, you can cancel. And as well the Savvy Seller program. Believe it or not, I have had deals in the past where the seller actually ended up finding the buyer and they end up going that route too, which is great. It allows people. Yeah. So yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up. But yeah, Alma, it's been such a pleasure helping you and Dino out. I'm sure we'll definitely be in touch. If it wasn't for COVID-19, I would have loved to take you and Dino out to dinner with me and the missus, get everyone to meet each other. But I hope you guys are enjoying the quarantine wines I sent you. But
Yeah, thanks for that.
yeah, no problem at all. Hey, happy Mother's Day.
I thought it was like a bottle of wine, and then I opened. I was like, "Whoa, this is a lot of wine!"
Did you guys finish it all yet?
Huh?
Did you guys finish it all yet?
No, not yet.
Yeah, I got a little while, but I figure you're gonna be stuck inside. Might as well enjoy some good wine, right? But
Yeah.
hey, I hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day and enjoy the time with the family today. All right?
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks again, Alma.
Yep.
Take
Bye.
care.